Victoria Newman and the tragedy of love. Will she get back with her ex after losing Cole? Concerns for Cole's life due to an incurable disease. He really doesn't dare to face this, he still doesn't understand what's happening. For Victoria, she falls into a desperate deadlock when looking back at her path to happiness that always has to face too many thorns. Victoria Newman, daughter of Victor Newman, has always been a complex character. She has gone through many great challenges in her personal and professional life, but the only thing that never changes is her desire to find true love. Whether it's with Billy Abbott, or maybe with someone in the future, Victoria always turns to old relationships whenever she encounters major events in her life. So will she once again get back with her ex after experiencing a great loss from Cole, and can she continue to build a new happiness? Victoria's big change in recent episodes of YNR, fans have seen signs that Victoria's life is about to take a major turn. Her relationship with Cole has faced some unforeseen challenges, and while everyone was looking forward to a bright future, Cole suddenly suffered a serious health crisis. His weak cough began to raise suspicions of a terminal illness, and this caused all hopes of a peaceful life for Victoria to be shattered. The question now is, can Victoria move forward with her current relationship, or will she turn to those who have been there for her in the past? She may do just that, turning to her ex for comfort and love, as is a natural instinct in times of crisis. What was supposed to be a big step forward in her relationship with Cole has now turned into a painful and dark test. Unexpected reunion? Victoria Newman is not one to forgive or return to those who have hurt her, but in her darkest moments, she has turned to her exes as a way to soothe her wounds. We can see this in her relationship with Billy Abbott, who has been a big part of her life, and will Victoria be able to find comfort from such exes after Cole's tragedy? Certainly, one of the interesting aspects that the writers could develop is the story of Victoria finding love again from an ex, and perhaps once again, facing the complicated emotions between the past and the present. However, if Cole is faced with a serious and terminal illness, will Victoria be strong enough to move on, or will she turn to someone she feels truly safe with? Cole's tragedy and a painful goodbye. If Cole does indeed face a serious diagnosis, this could mark a major turning point in Victoria's love story. Cole's death will undoubtedly be a huge blow to her, and this will only make things worse. Not only will Victoria lose the person she loves, but she will also face a void that will be difficult to fill. Will she be able to find peace in this grief, or will she be completely overwhelmed by the tragedy? This opens up a lot of dramatic possibilities. If Cole dies, Victoria may turn to Nate, her family doctor, for help in finding an experimental treatment, hoping that some miracle can save Cole's life. But finding an experimental treatment can be a risky and hopeful adventure. Medical trials don't always work, and this could lead to a bitter defeat for Victoria. Nate and the redemption. Nate Hastings, a doctor and close friend of the Newman family, could play a key role in Victoria's painful days. Not only will he help her find a cure for Cole, he will also be a trusted companion during this challenging time. However, no one can predict where Nate and Victoria's relationship will go. Despite their mutual understanding, Nate will initially be just a friend, but will that friendship turn into love when they both experience a major tragedy? Will Victoria move on? When the tragedy is over, Victoria may be faced with an important decision. Will she continue to live in the past with those who once loved her, or will she move on and find a new love? Will her relationship with Cole leave lasting scars, and will there ever be someone strong enough to replace Cole in Victoria's heart? This answer will surely be explored by the writers in the upcoming episodes. Whatever Victoria's choice, one thing is for sure, this tragedy will be a major turning point in her life. The story of love, loss, and hope will continue to be a deep and emotional theme on The Young and the Restless. Victoria Newman and the tragedy of love. Can Nate be her savior after Cole's death? The Young and the Restless has always been known for its complicated relationships, sudden decisions, and emotional tragedies. And now, Victoria Newman's story is going through one of the most painful periods of her life. After receiving the devastating news of Cole's serious illness, Victoria feels hopeless and unsure of what to do next. In her darkest moments, can Nate Hastings, the Newman family's loyal companion, be the one to save her from the abyss of loss and pain? A friend's hope, Nate and his ability to save Cole. Victoria, always a strong and resilient person, but even she cannot bear to see the person she loves facing death. Cole, the man she had loved and cared for so long, was now facing a terminal illness, and his chances of survival were becoming increasingly slim. The feeling of helplessness and the fear of loss were growing over Victoria, making her feel like all hope was lost. However, there was a glimmer of light in this situation: Nate Hastings. Nate was not only a good doctor, but also a close friend of the Newman family. He had always had extensive medical connections, and Victoria hoped that he could use these connections to help Cole find a cure. Although it was uncertain whether this effort would be successful, it at least gave Victoria a little hope that she had lost when she learned that there was no cure for Cole's disease. Friendship turns into love, a subtle relationship between Victoria and Nate. While Victoria pins her hopes on Nate to save Cole, there is no denying that their relationship has grown closer. Not only is Nate the family doctor, he is also the one who has been there for her through the toughest times. They have been through trials and tribulations together in their work and personal lives, and throughout this time, Nate has been a trusted friend. Now, as she faces the fear of Cole's death, Nate is closer than ever. The conversations, the sleepless nights spent researching Cole's illness, and the looks of concern and encouragement have created an undeniable bond between Victoria and Nate. And while Nate is helping Victoria find a way to save Cole, their feelings for each other have also gradually changed. They begin to understand each other better, sharing their worries, hopes, and fears. Their friendship is not only mutual support, but also a deep connection that can turn into love in such an emotional situation. The battle of hope and reality: will Cole survive? Although Victoria hopes that Nate will succeed in finding a cure for Cole, the reality is not so easy. Cole's illness is getting worse, and his chances of survival are increasingly uncertain. Although Nate tries his best to find a solution, nothing is certain. This story becomes a terrible tragedy that everyone around him does not want to face. Victoria gradually realizes that she may have to face the painful reality: Cole may not survive. Fear and grief well up inside her, leaving her hopeless and unsure of what to do. She begins to wonder if the love she has for Cole is strong enough to overcome all challenges, or if she will have to accept a life without him. When loss comes, Victoria will need a shoulder to lean on, and when tragedy inevitably strikes, when Cole dies, Victoria will have to face the greatest loss in her life. Having lost her lover, losing her last hope, Victoria will need someone to lean on, someone who can help her through these dark days. And in that moment, Nate will be there for her, not just because of friendship, but because of the deep love he has for her. Nate can't help but feel guilty for not being able to save Cole, even though he did everything he could. But this failure also brings him closer to Victoria, and gradually, his feelings for her become more evident than ever. Nate will be the shoulder Victoria can lean on when she can't stand up for herself. Together, they will share pain, loss, and perhaps, in the not-too-distant future, they will find love in the darkest moments of their lives. The rise of a new relationship. The weeks and months following Cole's death will be challenging for Victoria. However, Nate's presence will provide her with the comfort and affection she needs to move through her grief. Victoria's love for Cole may never fade, but her deep connection with Nate could become the foundation for a new relationship. Will Nate and Victoria be able to build a lasting love from old wounds, or will they continue to be friends, supporting each other through the challenging lives ahead? Whatever the outcome, one thing is certain: this tragedy will leave a deep mark on Victoria's life. Stories of love, sacrifice, and changing relationships are a big part of The Young and the Restless, and Victoria and Nate's story is sure to be full of drama and emotion. Nate, Audra, and Victoria's complicated relationship. Can old loves reunite after the tragedy? In the drama-filled and intrigue-filled world of The Young and the Restless, relationships between characters are never straightforward. One of the most notable relationships of late has been that between Nate Hastings and Audra Charles. At first, this relationship seemed to bring Nate love and stability after the turmoil in his work and life, but as usual in the world of complicated relationships, nothing is certain. As intrigue and dishonesty begin to surface, the relationship not only falls apart but also leads to major conflicts with those around them. Meanwhile, Victoria Newman, one of the central characters of the story, faces a personal tragedy when Cole, her lover, is faced with a dangerous illness. Victoria's love struggles extend beyond her relationship with Cole, opening the door to a new relationship between her and Nate. But can Nate and Victoria find love again after all the heartache and loss? The fall of Nate and Audra. Nate and Audra's relationship initially made headlines not only because they were a promising couple, but also because of Audra's complicated past. She was smart, sharp, and charming, but these traits made her relationship with Nate all the more complicated. Audra was not entirely honest about her past, and she did not hesitate to get involved in the shady plans of Victor Newman, a powerful man she might be working with for personal gain. Nate, who is a serious person in love, always seeks honesty and fairness in his relationships. But when he discovers that Audra is plotting to sabotage the romance between Kyle Abbott and Claire Newman, this makes it impossible for him to keep quiet. Anger flares up in Nate's heart, because he cannot accept that the person he loves is involved in hidden conspiracies that threaten the stability and happiness of those around him. Audra, although a charming and cunning woman, is not completely honest about her past. Her relationship with Holden Novak, a man with great influence in the business world, is not an easy secret to hide. When Nate begins to suspect Audra's shady relationships, her dishonesty becomes the deciding factor that makes him unable to continue with her. After the unacceptable deception and plots, this relationship naturally leads to a painful breakup. Hatred and love intertwined, the shock for Nate when Nate discovers Audra's plots, it is not only disappointment but also a great shock for him. Audra not only deceives him but also drags him into more dangerous and complicated situations. In order to maintain his purity and morality, Nate cannot continue to accept her presence in his life. Hatred begins to grow in Nate's heart, when he realizes that the person he loves not only betrays his trust but also aids Victor's dangerous plots. This not only hurts Nate but also seriously affects the other relationships he is building. The relationship between him and Audra is not only a matter of love but also a battle of trust and honesty. At that point, Nate's anger and frustration could lead to a major turning point, as he not only pushes Audra out of his life but also faces the consequences of the end of this relationship. Victoria and Nate, can old love reunite? While Nate struggles with the fallout from his relationship with Audra, Victoria faces another major tragedy. Cole, her longtime love, is facing a terminal illness. Victoria's despair comes not only from her concern for Cole's health but also from her sense of an uncertain future, as she wonders if their love can survive this ordeal. Victoria's relationship with Cole becomes even more complicated when she begins to realize that his prognosis is not optimistic. The unfortunate medical results push Victoria to the point where she must face the possibility of losing the man she loves. At this point, Nate, her old friend and life partner, can become a shoulder to lean on. Not only because of Nate's presence in her life, but also because of the comfort and understanding he can bring in these difficult times. A new beginning for Nate and Victoria. The relationship between Nate and Victoria has never been easy, but in the current situation, when they are both going through their own challenges, the opportunity for them to reconnect is great. Victoria, after all the emotional suffering, may return to Nate, who has always been there for her in her most difficult times. Their love may not be perfect, but this is an opportunity for them to find each other again after the events in their lives. Victoria and Nate may face many challenges ahead, but perhaps, in this situation, they will find each other again. Honest conversations, constant support, and moments of sharing in pain will be a solid foundation for their love to bloom again. Victoria and Nate's story will not only be about love but also about reunion and strong friendship that overcomes all challenges.